Okay. All right, so essentially, let me just get rid of that screen. So the 2021 consolidation, 2020-2021 consolidation of our thinking basically resulted in these things: a defined path forward, but also the theory of change on an organizational level was one of the clearest ways for us to define what we were doing. And many people do it just to get, because it's a requirement of funding or it's a requirement, but it is actually a really important process to do and keep doing, to keep reassessing it. We then have harmonized our strategic plan for 2022. We had strategic plans every single year previously, but it allowed for us to actually really put it within the framework and have a much better kind of understanding of the key, how all the puzzle pieces kind of like fit together. And that then made it easier for us to create the annual plan for 2022 and for the subsequent application that we did last year. And just to show you the theory of change that we put together, it's not pretty. It's not pretty. It doesn't have to be, it just has to be done. So you just have to really think about, what are you trying to do? What are your goals? How are you going to achieve those goals? What are the activities that are going to be, and what phases are those activities going to result in? So if you do what X, Y happens, and then what happens after that, and then what do you ultimately want to achieve? So as you can see, it's not the most pretty of anything, but it still has been incredible in allowing us to kind of allowing us to define where we are and where we want to go, and how everybody else within our community sits within the activities and the programs that we do. We'll get there, but first of all, I just want to say, like, by doing that, you have to look backwards to move forwards. You have to understand your environment. You have to keep visiting your problem, because you might not, in the end, you might not actually end up doing what you personally want to do, but you have to keep on reviewing it so that you end up doing what is needed to be done to achieve the outcomes and what you want to achieve. So even there's a lot of self-reflection, but also community reflection. Review your strengths, review those of your communities, constantly review the need and the challenges. So even though you feel like you have a solution, there's always another way to do it. As you can see, we've always found different ways to innovate and to move and shift the different programs forward so that they are constantly evolving as the community evolves as well. And so that we can also draw newer people in. So there's a prioritization also in the way that we work. And you must check your assumptions. So you can assume something, but unless you ask that person, or unless you can look at the data to see whether that absolutely happens, there's no point in just an assumption. There are rude words about what assumption means, but basically it just an idea, and sometimes it can become reality, but it will only be an idea until you check it. So we came up with our goals. Our goals are to provide multiple ways to reduce the barriers for individuals and groups to contribute their knowledge, and to build capacity of a network of leaders across Africa and developing communities. So we're very much in kind of like a support and a program management and offering kind of position, but we're not in any way kind of like interfering with any of the other, how the communities work. And because we had this basically 8 years of experience of working across these things, we were very lucky to look back with that experience that we have and be able to isolate exactly how we worked, exactly where we worked best, but also how we could achieve what we could do with what we had, which was the community and the programs and that kind of collateral. So if we do the goals, so these are basically the strategies we came up with. if we do this, which are goals 1 and 2, which correlate with goal 1 and 2, and we concentrate on these elements. So sorry, I changed your middle column. We have too many activities and things by which we can achieve those things. But we wanted to focus, these are the elements that we feel are the core global issues at the moment that we feel that the Wikimedia community can help to resolve. So they're gender equality, representation, youth activation, access to skills, and community development is part of that whole thing. It's not a massive issue in itself, but it still is a way of achieving those other focuses. And then in the long run, you can see what the impact is about closing those, but basically developing a self-sustaining community that is autonomous and has its own motivations, and that we don't interfere with in any way. So what are our learning lessons? If you look at our grant page, we've got like hundreds, because they're basically per each of the project has its own. But I just wanted to use like the Wiki Loves Africa one. So 3 of the learning questions were, what are the photographers' journeys? So we have all of the metrics that we gather every year, and they are huge and they're important for us to show how they go, but it doesn't delve deeper into what is happening in, so we can throw like thousands of images, and we can throw that, that basically I think by now we've passed the 1 billion mark for all of the images from Wiki Loves Africa to have been viewed on Wikimedia projects. And that's only something like I think it's 14% of the images that have been submitted to Wiki Loves Africa are actually on Wikipedia pages illustrating them. But of those, there have been 1 billion views. So there's these huge metrics that we can come, because we're dealing with Wikimedia. But ultimately, what is the true human cost? What is the true impact that we're making? And that is kind of like things like, what is the photographer's journey? Like in Africa, there's a very small amount of professional photographers, because there just isn't that career choice for them. So and that's not just us, that's also people like World Photo Contest. They also, World Press Photo, they also only have 2 to 3% of their international global competitions have African submissions to them. And that's because there just isn't this support. But there's also not this development. There's no development in that. So when we get like selfies and all sorts of photographs that come in, but we get these magnificent photographs as well. And so how do we then help on the scale that we do is to develop photographers so that we have better quality coming in, better representation of Africa, but also layering in better support from a professional point of view to help raise the profile of African photographers. So it's a kind of like you have to constantly, in that way, we started by wanting to have Africa better represented visually on Wikipedia. But ultimately, there are other ways. And that's what I'm saying. You must constantly interrogate what you are doing, why you are doing it, and who benefits from it, because there are many ways that Africa, it's not just about the photography, and it's not just about basically the images being on Wikipedia. There are huge benefits and have been to it continuing. What do photographers need to contribute beyond the contest? And then what do experienced organizers need to increase their impact for their community? So as a result of that, we're doing surveys and personal accounts through interviews, but sorry, I was in a bit of a rush. I didn't kind of delve deeper, but as a result, we've also done things like, at the moment, we're hosting open office every week, both in English and French, in order to make sure that organizers have the support that they need during the time that the contest is on. We also host webinars, and we do special kind of sessions as well. So there's all of those kind of things which have come from supporting the organizers better. just to understand. And that comes from metrics and getting feedback every year from the organizers to find out what they need. We did a poll this in February about what communications elements are the most useful, so that we can prioritize the work that we do as well in order to help support the organizers. And budgets and investments and whatever. This is not an easy task. And I have to say, I know that many of you are on a whole range of different experiences. So I don't want to, again, assume anything. But if you're starting or you're just coming out of the rapid grant stage, just start small, basically find out who your community is, what strengths you have within your community. So if you have somebody who's good at communication, somebody who's good at event organizing, just make sure that you find those people and gather that. We have a whole thing on how to run those kind of elements, but start small. Don't be too, you can have a big vision, like a very ambitious vision, but it only starts with small steps to get there. You can't kind of leap or teleport to that vision, and you can't expect anyone to support you if you can't. It's like doing a maths problem. You have to show the workings before people will allow you to say, yes, you got it right. Sorry, I have a teenage son. So also, again, don't rely on Wikimedia Foundation funding. It's as important to get, if you can, support. And I don't mean like as in monetary support, but you can get other kinds of support as far as, and many who have worked with us know this. You can work with cultural institutions like the Goethe Institute or Alliance Française or others in order to support because they're aligned in their mission, or that there's a benefit to them to having more people in their libraries or in their spaces. Great places to activate. And if you can leverage those kind of partnerships, you don't need the funding for venues and for data if they have that space. Although some of that money might then realistically go on keeping the lights on or generators, which is what happened with Wiki Loves Women in Nigeria because of the grid issues. And so, you just have to be realistic. Don't expect volunteers to do boring jobs. Like, seriously, they are not going to. They're just, life is too short. If you make sure that you have some kind of stipend in order to get those kind of like administrative stuff done, nobody wants to go out and kind of like crunch the numbers or do the reports or whatever, but you have to do it and it has to be done. So make sure there's some kind of provision for that, even if it's not financial. It could be some support in other ways. So it could be like for the data access or for something like that, or I don't know, skills development or things like that. Be realistic, be honest, and put in the hard work. And you've also got to prove yourself to the local and global community. Just because you put in an application, it doesn't mean that people know who you are or understand your intention. So be as obvious as you can, I think, in whatever you're trying to do. Don't assume that people know what you're doing because they're not in your brain. So just be as obvious, rather provide more too much. And I know it's not possible always with the kind of like the very limited word counts that are on the application form, but we decided that by having our own kind of, this was our annual plan and linking it. So if you need to have like a space for more information, or you don't feel that there's always another place that you can put information and link that. That's just a side trick. Don't tell the Wikimedia Foundation guys about that. And that's it. I think I've covered all the points, I'm hoping. I don't know what goes on now.
Fantastic. No, Ayla, that's so valuable. Thank you so much. And we're so excited to also hear from you. as a sharer and colleague of all the proposals that are going to be talked about now. So the next.
One more question. Sorry, I have one more thing.
Oh,
do
wonderful.
not be shy. Sorry, do not be shy to share your challenges and your failures. Please, it's much. Do not feel shame having to come forward and acknowledge that you don't know something or don't understand something, or like the Wikimedia, the Wikiverse is so huge. It is ginormous. Nobody knows like what's going on all of the time. You can't be a developer and an educator and an event organizer and a whatever and know those things like inside out. So ask, but also if things happen, we know that if you're from the MENA kind of area, our lives are very kind of tenuous. There's a lot of kind of instability somewhere. You know, everyone understands in our area and will understand if you can't, that it's not something you can control. So rather be as honest as possible and be upfront about it so that you can make a difference about that. I think it's we get into trouble when we feel like we have to be quiet or we have to be coping or we have to be as professional as possible. And that doesn't get anywhere, doesn't get us anywhere. It just gets us kind of like people, if you go silent, people just worry about what's happening for you and then they get cross because they don't understand and they can't access you. Okay, so that's the other thing. So just be as open and kind of like honest about it as possible. Yeah.
Thank you. That's such an important message, and reiterate the culture that we want to generate in these spaces. So given the time, I would like to go on to the next exercises, which is where you are all going to share. And if you have any questions for Ayla, we can weave that into the exercise and you can ask her, and we'll try to see if there's some space at the end. Okay. So what we're going to do next, I'm going to share here 2 links. One is for the Jamboard. Excuse me that it's not in French as well, but we will try to add on a French translation and Dora will help me explain it in French. So for those of you who like to use Jamboard, that's one of the options is the Jamboard. For those of you who prefer maybe a Google Docs, this is the Google Docs you can also use. For those who are on your phones or have difficulties writing at the moment, then you can also use the chat, or you can use go through it verbally. If you use the chat to share your ideas, we can help you put it on the Jamboard, okay? So what is the idea here in this? I'm going to use the Jamboard to explain the exercise. The Google Docs is the same information. So what we want you to do here is a very simplified version of your theory of change. So we want you to write down what are your main strategies, what are the results that you're hoping for, direct results from your work. So if I implement this strategy X, these are the results that I hope to measure in my work. And how do you hope to contribute in the long run? So what is the impact that you're hoping from that work? And as Ayla explained in her example, whenever we think of a theory of change, we have some assumptions. We are assuming that our strategies are going to work. Why are we assuming that? We're assuming that certain conditions will be met, certain things will happen for us to be successful. So we would also like you to write down what are your assumptions, right? This is going to be the first section of our work. And based on this, each one of you is going to share what your theory of change is. If you have doubts about it, write down your doubts. Actually, I don't know what my theory of change is, or I don't know how we're going to measure results. And you can write that down as well. So you can also write this in a form of questions. Don't worry about putting down all the information that is in your proposal. Try to focus on the main higher level strategy. What are your main strategies, your core strategies, and your core results, right? After that, we're going to move on to each one of you can work on a different board. Just make sure you put your name. You can put your name on a post-it. And after that, we're going to work on how we hope to measure that change. So what are some of those questions we want to ask, and what data we would like to collect to answer those questions? But that will be after the first section, okay? So the idea is for you to use this Jamboard. The idea is that each project uses one board. So you can use a post-it here to write your project name. So you can say user group X, right? And then you mark your board here, so you're not all working on the same board. To navigate the boards, for those who haven't used it, you just go up here and you can move through and select your board. For those of you who want to use the Google Doc, it's the same questions. You just write down your name here and your answer. Don't try to write long text, just the main phrases, the main concepts, so that you can share it with us. Take 5 minutes to do this. We can extend the time if needed. And then we're going to start a round of sharing. Okay. Any questions about the exercise? You can raise your hand, open your mic, or you can tell us via chat directly or openly. Veronica, did you want to compliment something?
No, not really. I think it's to just check that we are all on the same page. We're clear. Are there any questions? If you need to create, you need help in creating a new page in Jamboard, just put it on the chat. We're going to create a new page for your group. Or if you're on the Google Doc, you can copy the bit and get a new page on the same document. Yeah. And if you need clarity, that's okay. And especially if you need clarity in knowing how do I think, and maybe Isla or Jessica can support you knowing how do I differentiate, and maybe I'm getting into the other bit around how do I differentiate like key activities to what a strategy is. Maybe we can hear from Isla as we get into the group. And I don't know if this is the time or maybe we want to do it after.
Sure,
yeah, I think go ahead.
Here to help.
Thank you, Isla. I think we can really start working on our ideas, and based on the ideas that come up, we can start some of the orientation around some of those questions that might come up. So there are several Jamboards. You just mark your name just to identify your organization, your group, or if you're an individual, your individual name, and you can get jamming. We will use 5 minutes so we can have a good amount of time to share.
You call it adwa in Tabango. It's a vegetable. If you don't have kanwa, it's shower, you can't eat it. Is it not bra?
Someone listens to, what are they called? Can someone remind me? Nicola? No.
That Veronica?
The show that was playing. Anthony, do you know the show? The comedy.
So Jessica, Georges is asking, I think I've misunderstood what to do in the Jamboard. Maybe can you clarify?
Sure. Just let me share my screen here then.
And as Jessica shares, I have put on the Google Doc, I'm trying to create space for each new organization. So I see the first part, we have the bunny. I've put like organization 3, organization 4. So feel free to use the other spaces if you're using the Google Doc.
Okay, so the idea, are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, we can. We can.
Yes,
Yeah, we can see.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so each organization has they can use their own board, and just to identify your board, you can write your name here, right? So here we have 2 organizations on the same board. Perhaps Georges can go to board 2. I'll just put you here, and you can work on this board. So the idea here is that we use the Post-its. So in this case, this board would be for Sadiq. And you can write down your main strategies here, right? If you need more Post-its, you can just copy and paste them here. And you write down what are your main strategies, what you hope to achieve from these strategies as a result of your work. And in the long run, what is the impact that you're looking for? How you hope to contribute to a longer term change, and why you think these strategies are going to work. And this is a summary, a very simple summary of what is your theory of change. And we want you to work on this because when you come to the application form to answer some questions, you'll basically be answering what is your theory of change, right? So we want you to summarize it here so we can help you work through it. That is the exercise. If you're using the Google Docs, they're the same questions, just in a different format for those of you who might feel more comfortable using docs. Does that make sense, Georges? Thanks.
My judge is the speaker. I hope you can and judges maybe you can just comment Jen if you or the thank you.
Did anybody understand that clearly? As I didn't quite understand. It was cut on my end. I'm not quite sure who was speaking.
It was Anthony. I think he wanted Georges to confirm that he's now okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, Musa speaking here.
Yes,
Hello.
Musa.
Yeah, please, I'm on the Google Doc.
Okay.
Yeah, so I saw title and then the name. The title here, is it referring to like Mr., Mrs., Doctor, or I don't quite understand that.
It could just be Dabani Wikimedians, or like how you've put it, Wikimedia, someone else have put Wikimedia Tanzania. It's fine. Yeah. We just want you to have, it's just who is this who's writing the following? Who is this and they're writing the following?
So is it that I can put my name and then the Wikipedia I belong to? Or I just put
No.
the Dagbani Wikipedia?
Yes, it could be the title. Let me get title and name. So it could be the title of your project, for example, title or name. So for example, with what happened with Highlight was Wiki in Africa's exciting work for 2022. Or it could be Wikimedia Dabani's annual plan, or Wiki Command as a project. So it's
okay.
title or name. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. You can see
So
what, you've seen what, let me share the screen. Might be quicker.
So I can just put Dagbani Wikipedia there.
Yes, for example, in this case, we have in this section, we have someone, Wikimedia Tanzania. We also have Dabani Wikimedians. I think you were trying to do that. We have Wikimedia Arusha. So it's a question, and then each community is responding to that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be specific to a particular project.
It needs to be aligned with the application, that you've already been working on. Remember what Jessica shared is that we are not, recreating a new application. This is an opportunity for you to strengthen that application, spruce it up, especially because the core of the application is the three strategic questions that provide and clarity around what is the theory of change. If we do this, what impact is it resulting to, and therefore what resources do we need to enable this? Yes, so we're just trying to, refine or polish up the existing thinking that you already have.
Okay.
Jessica, you want to add?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
We'll just take a couple more minutes. Don't worry if you haven't managed to write your ideas. The important part is that we can share them together. So you can just tell us your ideas, and you can use the board or the document to work on after the workshop as well.
Hello.
Yes, Al Hassan.
Please, so if I'm, my organization is, say, Dagbani Wikipedia Dagbani Wikimedia User Group, and someone has worked on that already, can I also add another, still using the Dagbani Wikimedia?
Yes, or you can add to what the person has already included. Or you can have it as
okay, so like in the names column, like if the person has written his username or name, can I also add my name to?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so just one more minute there to finish off your ideas and we can start sharing. Bonjour, Angod.
Oui, oui, je vous entends. Je ne sais pas si...
Okay. Don't worry if we haven't written down everything. The idea is just to get our motors running and thinking so we can now share. We're not going to be able to share all projects because of the time, but we will hopefully share at least 3 or 4. And what we hear from our colleagues' discussion will help us go back to our own proposals and review what we can adjust, strengthen, change if necessary. And as I said in the beginning, the team will be offering one-on-one support so we can continue to work on this after the session and next week. So I would like to start. Who would like to begin by sharing their theory of change, what they worked on? Any suggestions, Veronica, of who might be keen to share?
Sorry, as a bit. Let me see on Jamboard. Do we have?
We have
Yes.
the Dagbani Wikimedia user group.
Yeah,
has
we
raised
can
up.
hear. We can hear from them.
Sadiq, would you like to?
Yeah, hello.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So on the first yellow sticky notes, I wrote that if we include the activities or programs that connects Dagbani language students and teachers to Wikimedia projects. So that's one of the strategies we want to adapt. And then the second strategy is we want to if we focus on creating content on the Dagbani Wikipedia and Wikidata through wiki contests like the programs that allow volunteers to participate in contests, we realize that those programs helps people to contribute more to our programs. So that's another strategy we want to adapt. And then the third one is if we focus on building partnerships with organizations and institutions that are interested in supporting the Dagbani language. So if we are able to identify institutions, whether they are Wikimedia community affiliated or just institutions that are interested in supporting the Dagbani language, then it will definitely help us to be able to contribute more to the projects in Dagbani. And then the results, by connecting with students and teachers or educational institutions, we'll be able to get more students and teachers contributing to the Dagbani Wikipedia. So the results of partnering with institutions and students or getting them involved will help us expand our volunteer base to students and teachers. And then the second resource, yes, this will also help us to be able to recruit more volunteers if we partner with institutions. Some of them will end up becoming volunteers to our programs. And then in the long run, I did not finish everything. This will help us increase the quantity and quality of articles on the Dagbani Wikipedia. And yes, the impact too will also increase our contributors on the Dagbani Wikipedia. So we'll see more contributors on the Dagbani Wikipedia. Why did I choose this strategy and not what I am assuming? So this one, I did not answer that, but we chose this because we think it is one of the ways we can use to, support our programs in Ghana or in Northern region. There are currently several colleges that teaches Dagbani language, and we want to be able to connect with them and use that as an opportunity to teach them, since they already speak or learn the language in their institutions. These institutions are where we get the teachers, Dagbani teachers for the country. So all the schools, primary, junior, and senior high schools, all the teachers that teach Dagbani are all students from these institutions, or they all pass through these institutions. That is basically what I can say about the partnership. Yes, we choose that because we are a new user group and we haven't really worked with other institutions within Ghana. So we want to use this as an opportunity to connect with more institutions to be able to achieve our collective goal.
Thank you very much for that, Sadiq. And I'd like to open the space. Maybe Isla, Veronica, or Anthony, or any other colleague would like to make some observations, suggestions, or ask questions.
Ayla, would you like to go? I still want to make sure I'm
Sorry,
giving you this.
I was
Yeah.
lost in the like 12 Jamboards. I was trying to find my way back. I think Sadiq is very kind of like very systematic in his thoughts. It would be nice to know what his assumptions are, but of course there was very little time to do such things. And in a way, I think also things like strategies, I think the way they're written, we need, it needs to be interrogated more into kind of like, simplified as such, to take out the padding, so but I think also the strategies are in the way that it's the language as well. So like strategies should be, we will do this, or it doesn't have to be like a if then that kind of thing. It's a, we will do this will happen, and then that will be the outcome. So it's more of a, it's the language will you should just simplify the language, which allows you to then simplify the concepts a bit more, and simplify your direction. But I think that's a general thing. It's not just what Sadiq had said. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, and I agree. I think my observation is, there's an opportunity to be more specific. And I guess Ayla talked about the padding. The language allows for generalization. So there could be, not narrowing it down, but being more specific to if we include what kind of programs, like what kind of program that connects the Bani language students to Wikimedia projects. So it's based on, and Ayla shared this earlier, around your research in knowing, or even, it's not even research, it could be research complemented by being aware of where you're starting, so that then you're able to learn from that. So for example, if we include a teacher program, for example, or librarian program, or a language teacher, what are they called? Language teachers, yeah? Language teacher programs, then, so that then you're going in with a very focused strategy. So that would be in addition to what Ayla has shared as well.
Yeah, so just to add, Veronica, to what you were saying, I think within those post-it notes that Sadiq, that you've put there are like 5 different strategies per thing. So just to take an example, if we include the programs, it could be like an education program, yes. Then the next one in the Y would be like, what would the results of an education program? And then between the X and Y columns, you finalize what the activities are and what the focus is. You know, if you know what I mean. So the strategies and the results and the impacts, these are kind of like the metas, like the helicopter from the kind of like the drone view. Yeah, so you don't want to get into which details of who and what and where. It's more like the, you know, so in the example that I put, it's like run a photo contest. You know, that it's not the detail, that level of detail, because the strategy is to then the others, the rest of what you will do, how you will achieve it, what the activities are, all of those elements will then finesse and kind of nuance that meta strategy. Yes. Does that make sense? I don't know, maybe I'm going against what Jessica wants to say, but basically the simpler the idea, the more options you have in order to achieve that. And if you kind of have already tied down your approach, it kind of stops you from thinking about and innovating, because you've already kind of put the blinkers on, you know, you've already put your kind of like your head in that direction and you're pointing in that direction. But if you have like, if it's an education program, there are many ways of implementing an education program, and there are many ways of achieving an education program. So it allows you a little bit more leverage and kind of space to experiment, but also to find ways to the end goal. That's.
Thank you so much, Ayla. So I can continue editing it, isn't it? Thank you.
Absolutely. And let's remember this exercise is just building on what you're already working on in the application. So it's not to go start from scratch, it's more of now I can refine it, strengthen it, provide more clarity.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sadiq. And I'll be working with you to see how we can measure some of these really interesting approaches that you're taking, of how teachers can become engaged, and I'll be helping you next week with that.
Yeah.
Okay,
so,
yes, Sadiq.
So 2 of us were selected to be part of the Reading Wikipedia in the classroom, the Trainer of Trainer program. And we just started the orientation today. And we think this program would directly also or indirectly shape our program, even though we are supposed to actually do it right now to be able to go beyond like implementing it, because we need to write the application to be able to get the funding. But this is just to say that we are also in the direction of like developing ourselves as individuals the two co-leads for the Dagbani user group, myself and Rashid, were privileged to have been selected for the reading Wikipedia in classroom. So yeah, we all
Awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, wonderful. Excellent. So maybe we can go to the docs and see who might be wanting to share here. Tanzania or Cameroon or IT. We have Latin America here.
Sorry, Jessica, my audio got lost, so I just got back.
No worries, Anthony. So, yes, who would like to share?
All right, I can start. I see what I wrote is first there. Maybe I can just start. All right, so for we people who was writing on the Google Doc from Wikimedia Tanzania, the change that we are, okay, can I read the question again? Can you scroll up? Sorry. All right, yes, the question was, what is the change that you are trying to bring about and why is this important? Yeah, we think in our community, there is still less awareness. Yes, we have some members who already know about WMF stuff or who know how to contribute open knowledge on internet platforms, but we think that's not enough compared to the number or how big the country is, and comparing with the need that we, for example, in our local language, we still have a little content. So we think we want to see a change that we increase the awareness about the open knowledge, such as WMF projects. Number two, we think the capacity that the people have about that helps them to contribute to this open knowledge is not yet enough. So with the change that we are seeking is to increase the capacity for these people. Number three, we see the problem that we as Africans, or talking of African languages wikis, they still lack a lot of content compared to the bigger and much matured wikis such as English. So the change that we want to see is the increase of content in these African languages. In my case, Swahili Wikipedia is the focus. Number four, we see a big, huge gender gap in both aspects, such as participation of women or ladies on not only the projects, but even the entire activity that leads to the increase of content on internet platforms. And that's one. Two, also there is a gap about the content themselves. So we want to see that change, that people or women or ladies participate in these activities, as well as we want to see the change that there is increase about content about them. Last thing is the partnership. I didn't write that, but that's the area also we want to work on, as well as formalization of our group, because that's the change that can impact more collaboration with other institutions. Thank you, Jessica. For the sake of time, I'd like to give another person the chance.
Thank you. And any comments for Anthony before we give Georges he wants to share his proposal? Okay. Any questions or comments there? Okay. There is one thing that I observed from the proposal is I think they're really, really interesting and very ambitious and different changes that you want to seek. And I think it would be very interesting to, in the proposal, go into more depth of some of the approaches and how you will hope to do this. So really think about how you're learning about some of the barriers or some of the things that might prevent women from participating or might be of interest to them to participate, and investigate and learn from that, especially in the context of the geographical diversity of Tanzania and maybe some of the issues that may arise. And then how are you hoping to sustain that work? So beyond including women in this proposal, how do you hope to be able to create conditions, approaches to be able to engage women increasingly? So I think that would be really interesting to go into more detail and to think about how you're going to learn from your work. I don't know if Veronica or Ayla want to add anything to that, or any other colleagues. You're all open to comment on each other's work.
I think you've covered everything, and it looks very exciting what's being written down. So I think that with a bit more work, it definitely will be, there's a lot of exciting things coming forward in the Wikimedia movement. So.
Hello?
Okay, yes.
Anthony, I want to find out if you have other languages that you are working on in Tanzania apart from Swahili.
Yes, Sadiq, thank you for your question. Yes, we do have. And basically, currently we deal with the Swahili Wikipedia and English Wikipedia. But honestly, English Wikipedia is the matured Wikipedia, and we are thinking of, we normally prioritize the Swahili Wikipedia because this is the language that we speak as a national language in our country, Tanzania. And as well as this is the language that is official for East Africa region. Some of the countries such as Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, they use Swahili. And recently, even the AU, African Union, has adopted Swahili to be one of the working languages, as well as SADC, which is the Southern African Development Community. In addition to that, even UNESCO have now announced the Swahili to have International Swahili Day, the World Swahili Day. I don't know how they call it. I'll fetch some links sometime. But these are the exciting opportunities that we think of focusing more on editing Swahili Wikipedia, especially using, we are thinking of some projects that you can work on this, such as Wiki for Universities. We have launched in Kenya last weekend, and we were excited that even there is this university in Kenya that is Pwani University. Even the librarians they was very excited to be part of this. So yes, to cut short, English and Swahili, but mostly Swahili. Sadiq.
Thank you, Anthony.
If you want to learn Swahili, let me know anytime.
I always think that, like, you know, I kind of like the Swahili language, like how a lot of countries are speaking it, and it's almost like a regional language, like in Rwanda, as you mentioned, Tanzania, and other countries around that region. Like, I wish we had something like that for West Africa.
Oh, wow. And soon maybe it will become an African language. Don't worry, we'll reach there.
Yeah. I really envy you guys.
Thank
For
you.
Ghana, we are surrounded by 3 francophone countries, so we don't even speak French. Our 3 neighboring countries speak French. We don't speak French, so it's really interesting to see that, like, a certain group of people or country that are connected to each other can speak a universal language, or they can understand each other in just one language. That's really interesting.
Thank you so much, Sadiq. That's really appreciated. Back to you, Jessica.
Thanks, Anthony. Okay, Georges, we're all ears.
Bonsoir, I will speak in French. Hein?
Yes. So those who don't speak French, you can go to the English channel. In the translation, you should see a world icon, and we should all go to the English channel to understand. Go ahead, Georges.
OK. La stratégie, en fait, qui est définie par d'un principe. Is it good? OK. C'est que...
Yes, that's perfect. Please go ahead, Georges.
Okay.
And the
C'est que
translator.
plusieurs Wikimédiens, en général, ne sont pas simplement les contributeurs à Wikipédia. Ce qui fait que si on ne trouve pas des moyens ou des stratégies, on perdra d'autres compétences, alors qu'on s'est simplement limité à Wikipédia. Qu'est-ce qu'il faut donc faire? Il faut déjà donc diversifier les domaines de compétences. C'est-à-dire qu'on a des personnes qui sont motivées à contribuer à Wikipédia. On a des personnes qui sont plutôt sur les langues locales. On a des personnes qui sont plutôt dans le numérique, soit les photographes et autres. On a des personnes qui sont aussi dans le métier de l'art. Donc, il faut pouvoir, en fonction donc, de ces données qu'on a, mener des actions qui vont permettre d'étendre la communauté, que ce soit localement ou le mouvement de façon globale. Voilà un peu la stratégie de façon globale. Il faut donc, pour cela, diversifier le domaine de compétences. Donc, qu'on fait des sous-groupes langues, des sous-groupes Wikipédia, des sous-groupes multimédia, des sous-groupes photographie, et en fonction de chaque sous-groupe, faire des formations, non seulement pour former les membres suivant chaque groupe, mais mettre sur pied de nouveaux projets dans ces différents groupes-là, sous-groupes. Parce que la petite expérience que nous avons, c'est quoi? C'est que quand il n'y a pas d'activité, une communauté se meurt. Donc, il faut des activités aussi ou des projets pour faire vivre une communauté. Et en faisant donc vivre une communauté, en diversifiant les domaines de compétences, on fera donc vivre la communauté dans toute sa grandeur. Que ce soit les gens qui contribuent à Wikipédia, que ce soit les gens qui sont simplement liés à la photographie, que ce soit les gens qui sont spécialisés dans les langues locales, que ce soit les gens ou les étudiants ou les développeurs, ils peuvent donc savoir qu'ils peuvent être membres de la communauté Wikimédia sans faire seulement la photo, sans faire seulement Wikipédia, sans faire seulement les langues. Donc, l'idée, c'est de pouvoir diversifier les domaines de compétences, capaciter les membres en fonction de ces différents domaines de compétences et permettre donc que dans chaque domaine de compétences, on puisse faire des sous-groupes pour recruter donc dans chaque sous-groupe des nouveaux membres. Donc, des groupes de photographes qui recruteront des nouveaux photographes ou des personnes qui s'intéressent à la photographie. Des groupes de personnes qui font dans les langues locales qui recruteront des nouvelles personnes qui font dans les langues locales pour étendre dans le sous-groupe. Des groupes de personnes qui font dans le domaine de l'environnement, qui recruteront donc des personnes qui font dans l'environnement pour étendre le mouvement, ainsi de suite, ainsi de suite. Voilà un peu la stratégie, les buts à atteindre et les objectifs à long terme.
Thank you so much, Georges, for that. I would like to open it up to any comments. I know we're just coming up to time, so maybe we will just take a few more minutes to hear some comments before we close. Any thoughts on it, Veronica, Ayla, Anthony, Justice, who's also joined as part of our working group?
I have a quick question, Georges. I'm not really sure what segmenting groups means in the Y section, in the pink. What does segmenting groups mean?
En fait, dans mon introduction, j'ai présenté le fait que on a affaire à notre communauté, si je peux dire ainsi, à des personnes qui sont pas seulement contributeurs à Wikipédia. On a des personnes qui sont photographes, mais qui ne font rien avec Wikipédia. On a des personnes qui sont dans les langues locales, qui ne contribuent pas à Wikipédia et qui ne feront pas dans la photographie, par exemple. On a des personnes qui sont dans l'environnement ou bien dans le domaine de l'environnement et qui, en général, ne feront pas des activités liées à la photo. Donc, l'idée ici, c'est maintenant de pouvoir segmenter, donc créer des composantes langue locale, donc des personnes qui contribueront seulement aux langues locales, des personnes qui contribueront au projet en rapport avec l'environnement seulement, des personnes qui feront aussi simplement Wikipédia ou des personnes qui feront simplement les photos. Donc, c'est un peu ça l'idée.
So like focusing, so more focusing their expertise correctly. Okay. Oui, merci.
Ayla, that's so funny. I only know we in French. So Georges, thank you so much for that. I like something like live Wikimedians. So, you know, just a part of the story, like yesterday we had some call around East Africa region, and they were talking or suggesting of the same thing, like having a very connected network of people that it depends on each other, depending on who is more stronger in which area and who is needing some help in several areas. So thank you, Georges, for that. And I envy you with your French. Jessica?
Thank you. Something that I see a lot in several of the proposals that are coming in this round from the MEA region is a lot about training, bringing in new contributors, trying to build a community in bringing those newcomers in. And I think it would be really interesting for us to start sharing approaches and learning from these projects about what are the best strategies to train people and what are we training them in. Sometimes, as I see, you're focusing on editors, but also organizers. And how do we create that route for somebody who comes into the movement to become an organizer? And how do we train them so that they can be an organizer and a multiplier of bringing other people in? And on the other hand, how do we organize ourselves as a group? So some of the user groups here are thinking, as Ayla had said in her experience, you know, they started with all this work and then suddenly you need to think as an organization, how should we operate? How are we sustainable? How can we grow? How should we organize our staff? How do we manage volunteers? So I think that these are two areas where it would be interesting in the proposal to be able to say beyond training is what type of training do we think will be effective? And what do we want to test with this training? And how can we learn from the training? Does it work to do online, continuous? Does it work to have online and offline? What makes people be more engaged to be able to organize in the future? What skills do they need? So these are some of the issues that I think we can go into a bit more depth. But as Ayla said, not become restrictive and say, we're going to do it like this, but this is what we want to experiment. And we want to collect information about whether it's working or not. And that is beyond just the numbers of how many people we trained, but did they get the right skills? Are they interested in continuing? Did they continue? Did they organize activities? And we can do this through several methods. So the survey, Ayla mentioned the interviews, where we take one case study and we look at their journey and whether that, you know, we did everything we had to do so that journey worked. There's a really interesting document I'm going to share with you, which is the Movement Organizers study, which is translated into several languages, and it shows some of those journeys of organizers. There's some really interesting learning from that. But I think the MEA region and your diverse communities will be able to start documenting those journeys in different strategies that are working or not working. So I think this is the core of a lot of your proposals. So it's going to be very interesting. Ayla, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to underpin what you're saying. I think it's very interesting to see the journeys, but I think it's also very, at this stage, the next stage from this, so once you've understood who you are, what you want to focus on, how you want to focus on it, is basically isolating like who your audience is. And I don't mean that as like from a reader's point of view, but basically from like what your strategy is to achieve those people, and what is the path that they take in order to get to become the person you want them to become. So if you want them to become a Wikipedia expert, how do you make them aware of that? How do you encourage them to contribute? How do you skill them up so that they can? So, and then understanding who that person is, whether that's a student or whether it's an expert or whether it is a teacher or an educator, changes how your approach. So that's why, like the detail at the moment, you shouldn't, because only once you know like who you're approaching, will you understand how you're approaching them in a way and what they then need to be approached and to do the work. Because obviously a student has very different needs to somebody who's an expert or a professor at university or is part of a kind of like a community that's already supported. So that's also the next stage, and it underpins what Jessica's saying, but it's like further back than like what their journey will be with you. It's more like, how do they get to you? Like, how do you get them? You know, what net do you need in order to catch them, kind of thing, with the nicest way of landing possible. So
thank you so much for that, Ayla. I think it's absolutely correct to first understand who we're working with, what are their needs, their dreams, what would catch them into participating before, and then we start testing which are the best approaches. So I think that is fundamental. Okay, I don't want to take more time. I think several of you joined a bit later, but we will be able to share the recording of the session just for your internal use. And also the exercise that you did today, I hope it helps reflect a little bit on your proposals, but I don't want you to be worried that you have to rethink your proposals. They're very good proposals. We've had a look at them. We will be helping you through the documents, the drafts that you shared, to think some of these ideas through, and especially the part in how do we want to learn and evaluate from our work. So we're not reduced at the end to just measure some numbers and metrics, but measure things that really count for us to learn. For all of us to learn. So the following steps, Veronica's had to leave us for another meeting, but she will be reaching out to you to let you know the sessions that we will have with you, and we will be working on your documents. Ayla, if it's a lot of people on the call, but if anybody would like to reach out to you and you're available to offer some asynchronous support, then that would be great.
Most of you know how to get hold of me, but I'm on Telegram. You can DM me there if you are on there, or you can get hold of me via ayla@wikiinafrica.org. So
thank you very much, Ayla, for your participation as always. And I see one last hand raise.
Hello, Alafia Bami. Welcome. If you have something to say.
I wanted to know whether we are still going to go through the Google Doc or we are just rounding up because I've imputed a lot of content on it?
We were closing just to be in the time frame. We weren't able to share all of the examples. If some people would like to stay on and share, I am happy to stay on and share some ideas with you. But we were just closing for those who had to leave with the following steps. But if you would like to stay on and share, and those who can stay on, then that would be very nice.
Okay, I will stay on then.
Thank you. Okay, if anybody else would like to stay on and share with our colleague, then you're welcome to do so.
And maybe, Jessica, we can hear from maybe 2 or 3 people. How do they think, what do they think about this program? Because it's like a new program, and yeah, just today I participated on this.
I have a question.
Yes, Sadiq.
Yes, for the Dagbani comedians, like we were rejected. Just put it that way. The other in the first round we were rejected. I want to know why why this, instead of like, if the committee really wants to support the communities, why don't they still walk them through the application and get the you know, all the things that are wrong, maybe get it sorted, or advise them, or even the worst case, just fund part of the program that they think they can support, and then allow the other ones to go, instead of just rejecting the application. I've had the privilege to work on the project grant committee some time back, so I sometimes feel some of the applications have some good you know, ideas or projects that, you know, shouldn't be rejected at least. So why do they not like work with them to at least get those projects running, and just deciding not to fund them? Like, I want to understand. And is it going to be like that in this round as well? I don't hope to be there this time around, but I just want to be clear on that.
Thank you, Sadiq. That's a really important question. And some of the committee members were here today listening. I think their intention is to, I know their intention is to work with applicants throughout the proposal writing phase to support you. So it's not just reviewing the proposal and rejecting it, but actually supporting you to improve the proposal based on how they're reviewing. I think we're all learning in the process. The committee is learning. The committee is also gaining skills. They are community members as well. So I think there are things that we all need to work on as we do as a team to support you better as well. And these spaces is just one way that we're trying to find ways of better supporting you. So I think that things will improve. It doesn't mean all the proposals will get supported, because obviously some of them will not fit some of the criteria, despite the feedback, maybe they're not adjusted enough. So we're trying to reduce that risk as much as possible so that you're on the right track. And sometimes the recommendations will lead you to rethink the size of your proposal, the scope, and in the next round, it would be a proposal that's much more successful. So even if it's rejected, there'll be a learning process there that we hope will be helpful to the organization. So that's what we're working on, but we all need to improve and work harder to help each other.
Causes heartbreaks.
It does sometimes. Sometimes it can work in the long run to help us grow. But we will try to make it a learning process and a growing process, and not a heartbreak process. Okay, so those of you who are staying, I'm sure you're super enthusiastic about staying. We also have Constance, who's part of, and Hangon, who are part of the Latin American and Caribbean Committee. They're also committee members, but from another region. Perhaps they can share some of their views as committee members as well. Welcome, Constance.
I'm going to say goodbye to everyone now.
Sorry?
I'm just going to say goodbye to everyone now. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect. Isla, thank you so much.
All right. Bye, everyone. Good luck with your proposals. I can't wait to see what you guys achieve. All right. Good luck.
Thank you, Ayla.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Constant is part of the MEA group, so I'd like, as a regional committee member, maybe you would like to say something.
Écoute, Jessica, j'ai une question. Est-ce que c'est la dernière session pour cette formation? Est-ce qu'il n'y aura pas d'autres sessions alors?
Dora, can you help us with translation?
Oui. Alors, est-ce que c'est la seule session de formation et comme on l'a aujourd'hui? Est-ce qu'on n'aura pas d'autres sessions? Parce que j'étais arrivé très tard et je ne sais pas est-ce que je peux avoir le lien d'enregistrement.
Okay, Angon. No, we were going through some example proposals and looking at the different answers to some of the questions about their strategy in general, and that's what we were doing. I just wanted to introduce both of you because as committee members, there was a comment about how committee members are supporting applicants, and maybe you would like to say something about that, or Constant, who is also part of the regional committee for this region, if you would like, is your role as regional committee members. Okay, if not, then maybe we can pass it on to Sadiq. You were going to say something?
Oh, okay. So I just wanted to add this question or pass this question to the regional committee. I don't know how they are constituted. I know there are a couple of them, like 2 from Ghana. How do they like review proposals in terms of like how well do they like the communities that they are reviewing in terms of their activities based on their location? I know we are all within the same location, like MEA region, but do they have other ways of like getting to know the communities or applicants very well?
I think maybe Constant, his connection maybe not so good. If you want to open your mic to comment on that. I can tell you a little bit about from our perspective is, and our work is that we're trying to get a regional committee that's balanced in terms of their representation of different regions, of different groups, different genders. So today you can go to our page, our meta page, and look at the regional committee, look at all the members and their background. And also with time, we hope that that representation will always be, bigger and improve, and we can work on it. They are not knowledgeable about all communities. They know about obviously the communities that they come from and that they're closer to, but they are working on becoming and participating in these meetings is a way of getting to know communities more, reading more about their background, knowing more about their work so that they can better support the work people are doing. And as I said, that's a process that they are going through to have that capacity. And we work with them to give them review criteria. So we're working together to think, what is it that you need to review in the proposals, and to give them the right information so that they can review that, to know the organization's history, what has been their past work, what are some of the things that they need to further develop, And the idea is that when you write your proposal, you will have an opportunity to talk to the committee and not just submit the proposal, and be able to explain some of the aspects. And they can offer some feedback for you to adjust your proposal and have time to adjust it. So we're hoping to have more of a conversation with committees so that they can know more about you, and you can know more about them and their perspectives. So these are some of the things that we hope to improve in this round.
Maybe Sadiq, as a follow-up question to what you asked, by any chance, do you think like there is a moment where these reviewers, they don't understand the context of you people in your local communities? I saw your comment here, like it would be great if they know more about the communities they are reviewing.
Okay.
At any point, do you think, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for this, Anthony. I understand that they are a very small group, like they may not be able to know every community, and we have a lot of like communities in Africa and the other parts that are involved in the regional program. I am saying this not because I feel like they don't know much about us, but I think it will be very useful if they like spend some time to review some of the activities that the group embarks on. For the Dagbani Wikimedians, we were recently recognized, right? Barely 1 year. I think it was last year we celebrated our 1 year anniversary. And along the line, we were able to come out of the incubator as a new language Wikipedia. And as we speak now, the Dagbani Wikipedia is the biggest Wikipedia in Ghana right now. Meanwhile, there were other, what's the name? Languages Wikipedias in Ghana. So people may not know us because we are recently recognized as a user group, but what we've been able to do within that period, at least, should be known to them, and then they follow our activities, some of the things that we do, and how we are able to achieve this feat. In our initial application, we indicated that we were selected as part of the abstract Wikipedia program's focus languages, where 6 or 5 languages that were selected to pilot the abstract Wikipedia that they will roll out in 2024. So I thought we were going to get the opportunity to at least get some funding to be able to match with our colleagues, the Hausa, Yoruba, and the Igbo Wikimedia languages that were selected are already supported by user groups in their various countries. I know for Nigeria, they have specific user groups for languages like the Igbo, Yoruba, and the Hausa. They have different user groups. And at the same time, they have a mother Dagbani, like Wikimedia Nigeria user group. So they are somehow supported in terms of that project, but we did not have any support to be able to, follow their steps, like, or work with them in that particular direction. And there's also a challenge for us in Ghana. There are other affiliate user groups. We have the Wikimedia Ghana, and then the Open Foundation West Africa, who are doing very well in Ghana. But we are solely working for the Dagbani and the other Moli Dagbani languages. And we don't currently, because we are very new, we currently are not supported by them in terms of their program. Like, they don't add Dagbani language to their contest. For example, when they are doing Wikilabs Africa or Wikilabs Women, creating content in Dagbani, we don't have that. So it's just like having a user group and you are working on a particular language solely by yourself, not supported by any other means. So if we don't get funding to be able to continue this project, we don't expect the project to grow. You understand? Unlike Igbo, for example, if the Igbo Wikimedians user group did not get funding to continue their activities this year, the Nigeria user group would definitely organize programs that are centered around the Igbo language. Compare that to Ghana. If the Ghana Wikimedians don't get into the program, nobody will write content in the language. So I'm just giving this
thank you,
so that you understand where I'm coming from.
Yes, that's really important. Thank you so much, Sadiq. I would like to give Fiambami, sorry about the pronunciation, a chance to share his project because he was very keen, and just so we can hear him for a little bit.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, so this is Alafia Bami. I reside in Nigeria. At Free Knowledge Africa, yeah, we are planning to improve the contributions about African content on Wikivoyage. Last year, we organized a Wikivoyage awareness, and we ended it with a competition. It was titled Explore Nigeria. During this, we recruited a lot of new persons. We recruited a lot of new persons, new contributors to the Wikimedia space. We partnered with existing travel agencies and tourism organizations in Nigeria on how to scale Wikivoyage. I don't know if there's anyone, if we are familiar with what Wikivoyage is here. Wikivoyage is the travel advisory anyone can edit. So this time around, we just taught new contributors and the existing one on how to create content on Wikivoyage about Nigeria. And we yielded, I can tell you we succeeded because we met all our targets. So we are planning on scaling that across the African continent. And we are confident about this is because we've done it previously, and we have partners. We have people who want to partner with us across the continent on this. Also, we want to advocate on the open GLAM and discuss about the public domain in the Nigerian Cultural Heritage Institution. Currently, we are documenting the items in the public domain in Nigeria, and this exposition made us realize that a lot of cultural heritage institutions do not know about the open GLAM or do not know anything about GLAM. So we are planning on working with these institutions, and we hope to get funded for it. There is no, we want to create a template for young persons to get into the Wikiverse, in the sense that there's no capacity building template for any young person, somebody in his teenage years, in his early 20s, on activities he can do to join the Wikimedia space. So we are planning on creating a free knowledge leadership forum where individuals from various parts of the continent, English speaking for now, can join in, get trained, and replicate the success we've had in Nigeria through the Wikimedia fan clubs, and replicate it in their communities. We know it will be difficult and require some special skill, but during this period, we intend on sharing those special skills and routines in developing Wikimedia communities in various African universities. Also, we also want to bridge the content gap on sports in Africa and on Africans or Africans in sports on Wikipedia. This global sports market is worth about $500 billion, and Africa is partaking about $2 billion in it. And we discovered that one of the major reasons why there's a gap in revenue and even in association wise is that there's little or no information about African sports, African games, African sporting activities. or African sporting bodies, there's little or no information about them in the on open movement platforms such as Wikipedia. So we are planning on improving that by organizing a contest and partnering a contest. Before we organize that contest, we plan to partner with existing sports bodies in Nigeria. We will use their connections to scale to other sports bodies in Africa, and from there we would organize a contest in that wise where sports writers, journalists in Nigeria can engage in contributing about their favorite sports on Wikipedia. I think that is all for now. I would love to share, and I've described there, like, why do you think these specific approaches or strategies will be effective in bringing change? As I've said here, that we have a track record of using the strategy of campaigns and awareness to increase contribution on Wikivoyage in Nigeria. We believe we will scale it. Do I have to read it?
No,
Hello?
no,
Maybe
I'm just leaving it there as a reference for you. Yes?
Am I being interrupted?
All right. So I was saying it would be great if you, even if you don't read, you can just summarize on whatever using your few words in head if you already know the concept. If not, if you have forgotten, yes, you can read. That's for the sake of other people also to get some chance to share what maybe they think. Oh, is it Jessica? This is the last person. I see some hands from Abakari. Yeah, welcome. Yep.
Okay, that is noted. I just want to say that we have a track record in using these strategies, and it has worked. We believe if scaled properly and properly monitored and fully funded as well, that we can achieve greater success. Also, we've partnered with some institutions in previous times in a particular region of Nigeria. So we would want to use that relationship to liaise with other institutions in other parts of Nigeria. And I also like to close that privately, we mentor Wikimedians, and they've gone ahead to create organizations in their respective domain. So we would love to scale that on a larger scale based on our success rate. Thank you. I'll answer any questions if there are.
Thank you so much, Alafiabami Oladipupo. Oh, this is a very cool name. Thank you so much, my friend. So that was wonderful. Thank you so much. So if anyone is having a question to Alafiabami, you can prepare that or post it in the chat. Maybe for this time we can allow Aboubakar Keita. I see a French sentence.
Oui, j'avais levé la main depuis un temps. J'ai besoin de poser 2 questions là, si ça va.
Yes, please go ahead.
Merci. C'est Keita de Wikimedia Guinée. Donc, nous avons commencé déjà à travailler sur le formulaire de demande de subvention pour notre groupe d'utilisateurs. Jusqu'au niveau de la question 35, là où il demande pour votre demande de financement, listez des prix ou puces pour chaque dépense, incluant les prix unitaires, le nombre d'unités, tout ça là. Mais à la fin, il y a un modèle qu'ils nous ont proposé. Mais ce modèle, pour moi, est un peu compliqué, que je n'arrive pas à le comprendre. Et j'ai établi un nouveau modèle parce que c'est dit vers la fin. Si vous voulez, vous pouvez utiliser un autre. On a établi un modèle, seulement que on n'a pas eu à détailler chaque projet. Ce que je vais dire, je vais être un peu plus simple, c'est que nous avons réparti, parce que nous sommes un groupe d'utilisateurs, les projets qui se passent d'habitude dans l'année, on les a répartis d'abord sur 2022-2023 et vers la fin, nous avons nous avons ajouté d'autres projets innovants que nous avons créés chez nous ici. Pour ajouter à cela, je veux juste savoir si pour chaque projet, il faudrait expliquer chaque passage. C'est-à-dire quand tu mets le projet, par exemple, Wikilove Africa, tu dois détailler tout ce qui rentre dedans. Puis tu prends le projet Wikilove Folklore, tu détailles tout ce qui rentre dedans. Tu détailles tous les projets. Ou bien il faut juste donner les grandes lignes et les... C'est ça mon problème en fait.
All right, thank you for the questions. I'll be passing that to Jessica, but maybe I can try to at least comment on the first question that regards the template, whether, so the question is asking, he's asking whether they should be using their own template or they should be using the template that was shared by the resources team, I hope. So as long as I understand, and according to what Veronica said once, I had a call with her at some point. She was saying the template helps us, and at the same time helps them, the team, the resources team, to capture the important information from you on the general picture of what are you trying to do with this grant application. So I would recommend that maybe you can try to use the same template, unless if you have any problems with the template, just reach out to whoever contact with you, maybe Monica, so that he can assist you on how about it. Comment. Welcome, Josh. Have any different comment?
Merci beaucoup. Merci pour cela.
Abubakar, I would like to also help you with that. What Anthony is saying is correct, that the template is there just to guide you. If you have problems with that use of the template, you can do your own budget, but just make sure that you include the level of detail that is needed to understand exactly where you're investing, why you're making those investments, how those investments relate to the strategy that you want. So to make it very clear of why those investments are important to achieve those strategies that you are looking for. And if you have staffing costs, it's important for committees to understand a little bit more about what roles people will play in the team, how you've calculated the costs, and just be able to support and justify each one of the items. But if you feel more comfortable using a different template, then that's okay. If you just want to use our template, but you have doubts of how to fill it in, then we can definitely do a session and work with you to fill it in. So you're free to do whatever you choose, whatever is easier, but just make sure you have the level of detail that will help committees understand your budget. And in regard to the multi-year plan, the idea is for you to focus more on the first year and the detail for the first year, but we will be asking what are your plans for year 2 and year 3 in general terms, to say, we're hoping that in year 1, we will develop these strategies and these activities, and this will be what we hope to do in general terms in year 2 and year 3, how we're going to be building on our work. And also in terms of the budget, you don't have to go into detail, but yes, say what is the budget you would expect for year 2 and year 3. That is the guideline. Dora, did you want to add something to that specifically?
D'accord, merci. J'aurais besoin de soutien, mais je vais devoir concocter ça et puis mettre quelque part, voir comment partager avec vous pour comprendre davantage. C'est bon, je peux continuer? Oui, je vous entends. Je peux continuer là? Ok, très bien. Oui, oui, oui. Super, ça me va. Pour le moment, je crois que c'est bon. Je pourrais mettre ça dans le document et les diriger parce que c'est sur le staff qui travaillerait sur chaque projet, mais j'envoie en même temps au comité régional, c'est mieux.
Okay. Dora, is that good? Right. And I'd like to go back just before we close to the wonderful proposal that Free Knowledge Africa shared with us. And Bami, I'm so sorry, like I'm having difficulties today with my pronunciation in everything, in all languages. I think it's really interesting, the scope of the work and the knowledge that you've been able to accumulate in your experience. I think it's really important in your document to tell about that background and how you've learned from all those past experiences, the experience of working with youth and the clubs, with the sports, with partnerships. I think, like I've mentioned with the other proposals, really try to describe how you're going to approach it. So what's the methodology, why you think it's going to work based on that experience that you've had, how you hope that youth will be involved, or as Ayla was saying, how do you hope to work with youth to understand ways in which they would be more interested in being involved and that their involvement could grow and be sustainable. So trying to really discover that and create methodologies and training and activities based on what you discover with them, and really focus your evaluation on that qualitative evaluation. Is not only saying that we've done this training or so many youths or so many sport contents, but I think doing a lot of interviews, focus groups, telling the story of how those youth are participating, because youth is a big area of work, I think, in the movement in general that we haven't touched upon. And I think discovering ways of engaging youth, and especially in Africa and in the Middle East, and sharing that knowledge with others of how they can engage youth would be really valuable in the proposal. So I see there that's one area. And the other area is partnerships and how you've been successful in working with partners and how those partners can become allies in the future and continue to work on opening their knowledge and partnering with you. How those partnerships are done, what have you learned from those partnerships? What are the key things that make those partnerships successful and not just based on one project or one activity, but that you continue to work and that it becomes part of that partnership's mission also to work with Wikimedia. All that about what makes a partnership successful is really important. So my recommendation would be really document what you've learned from your past work and why you're developing these strategies. And also because you're working in so many different areas. So you have the sports content, the youth, the partnerships, the GLAM, really make sure that you describe your team well and how you hope to staff all these different areas of work, what staff you have, what volunteers are going to be working in the different areas, and how you can make sure that they're sustainable in the future, because it's a really broad scope of work. And finally, I love the mentoring experience that you have. I would really like you to also include that in the proposal as a way of sharing your knowledge, of creating capacities in others, and how you do that and how you've measured whether that's successful, if the mentoring's worked. Maybe some case studies to show how that is developed would be really interesting as well. So sorry, that's a lot in a few words, but I'm happy also to go into your draft document and make some comments there if that would be useful for you.
All right, Jessica. I can share the access to the draft documents with you. Just send me your mail. Your mail. I'll share the Google Doc with you. Thank you. And also, there was a part where I lost you for a moment. Yeah, I would ask, how can we get the recording to this? There were some advice and strategies you gave that my internet glitched. So I would love to listen to it again via the recording.
Sure, I can send that to you via email as well.
Okay.
So I think we can close now. We're well over the time, but thank you for your enthusiasm. Musa, Sadiq, for being so participatory here. Dora for wonderful translation. Hangod, we will have other sessions to talk about the Haiti proposal specifically, but thanks for joining us and staying on board. And thank you so much for sharing your proposal. Bye, Musa. Hangod, do you mean the document, the application form, or do you mean the document we are working on today?
Donc, alors, Jessica vient de dire que nous pouvons partager avec elle le document et que nous travaillons pour le plan annuel. Je me demande est-ce qu'on peut...
Dora, can you help me?
Oui, je me demande est-ce que je peux le faire, mais je travaille en français. Est-ce que cela ne sera pas un problème? D'accord.
Of course. You can share it with me. I will use translation services and I will put my comments in French and Dora can check them. Sadiq, thank you.
D'accord, merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup.
All right, guys, thank you so much.
Au revoir.
Bye.
D'accord. Bye.
Bye, Jessica.
Bye, thank you. Hi, Dora. Hold on, stop recording.